all together, all in one place for you to enjoy.
It's whatever kind of adventure we want it to be.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
I'm Sharon Tazwell. Here's your Spectrum News at 90. Brian Cole Jr., the man accused of placing pipe bombs near the Democratic and Republican headquarters in Washington, D.C., made his first court appearance Friday. Officials haven't released a motive yet, but Cole reportedly told investigators that he believed conspiracy theories surrounding the 2020 election being stolen. According to an FBI affidavit, authorities identified Cole through analysis of credit card charges related to the purchase of pipe bomb components, information from cell phone towers, and a license plate reader. The CDC's vaccine advisory panel has voted to end the long-standing recommendation for babies to get the hepatitis B vaccine on the day they're born. The panel, whose current members were all appointed by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., decided to recommend a birth dose only for babies whose mothers test positive and in cases where the mom wasn't tested. Groups are set for the FIFA World Cup next year. This year's ceremony at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. divided teams into 12 groups with 6 spots remaining undecided until March playoffs. We already know the opening match, Mexico and South Africa. The two also played in the inaugural match in the 2010 World Cup. 11 U.S. cities will host games, including Atlanta, Kansas City, Los Angeles, and Houston. That is your Spectrum News in 90.
Hey everybody, I'm meteorologist Nate Harrington. As we look at the big picture heading into the weekend, it's more areas of snow, more areas of heavy rain, and we're going to continue to track both of these as we go into the weekend and early next week. Now, winter chill continues for much of the eastern U.S. Areas of snow and rain through the weekend, and another round of Arctic air is ahead next week. The winter weather pattern continues. We'll break down the forecast coming up.
Welcome to The Big Deal. I'm Errol Lewis, national political anchor at Spectrum News. This program focuses on the future of our country and its people. And this week, the big deal is the controversy surrounding U.S. military strikes on boats suspected of smuggling drugs in the Caribbean. Since early September, the United States has carried out more than 22 strikes, killing at least 87 people. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's leadership has also come under question due to his involvement in a follow-up military strike on a boat in September that killed 2 people who reportedly had survived the first strike. President Trump and Hegseth say that attack was necessary, but legal experts contend that killing survivors could be a violation of the laws of war.
As President Trump always has our back, we always have the back of our commanders who are making decisions in difficult situations, and we do in this case and all these strikes.
The specific example given of an impermissible action is attacking a shipwreck.
Do we think there's any chance that on Sunday the Secretary of the Defense did not know there had been a second strike? So as a country, we're just going to let people lie to us to our face?
We know every route, we know every house, we know where they manufacture this crap, we know where they put it all together, and I think you're going to see it very soon on land.
Joining me now with more are two top political analysts. Susan Arbetter is a political anchor for Spectrum News 1 in Albany, New York. Tim Boyum is a political anchor for Spectrum News 1 in Raleigh, North Carolina. And Tim, let me start with you. That September 2nd strike, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said that he was not in the room and that an admiral made the call to launch the follow-up strike. Critics are still, though, calling for the resignation or the firing of Hegseth. How likely is that to happen?
You know, I think it comes down to one person, and that's the President of the United States, Donald Trump. I mean, there's been a ton of reporting about GOP senators getting frustrated by this controversy sort of continuing on and on and on. One of those is North Carolina U.S. Senator Tom Tillis, who you might remember got into a sort of a fight with Donald Trump this summer that resulted in him saying he's not going to run for re-election next year. And he's sort of sick and tired of this going on and wants, you know, them to admit to their mistakes and then just move on to something else. But the longer that this drags on, it drags down the administration and what they want to get done. I think from the president's perspective, it probably depends on how long he's willing to go along with this and when it starts impacting him and his political outlook as we head into 2026 about whether Hegseth stays on and whether there's someone else that they can blame. But, you know, so a lot of times with Donald Trump, when people go after him about something, he sort of, you know, digs in deeper even, and he seems to have this affinity for Hegseth. So I think it's going to have to affect him politically for a move there probably.
Okay. And now, of course, Susan, when we talk about these strikes, we also have to talk about America's relationship to Venezuela. President Trump has been ramping up pressure on that country's leader, Nicolás Maduro, calling on him to step aside. And as we've heard, he has even threatened to strike on land. Our colleague Josh Robbins spoke with a history professor about these threats. This was on Spectrum News Plus. Let's take a listen.
The Trump administration has made no bones about allying with dictatorships elsewhere, right? And so its claims to supporting democracy are a little bit thin. It's also true, as we know, that Venezuela is a hub for some drugs, not nearly the extent of Colombia or Mexico. And so if, in fact, it is true that we want to oust Maduro for those reasons, why is the move not happening in other countries as well?
So Susan, I mean, if the stated reasons are not logical or consistent, what is maybe the unstated reason for Trump's talk about regime change in Venezuela?
Well, President Trump, Errol, is known to be transactional. He's also pretty transparent. He likely wants a dominant stake in Venezuela's enormous oil wealth, which is the largest in the world. Back in October, you might remember that the New York Times reported that Venezuelan officials offered the Trump administration a stake in that country's oil and mineral wealth in exchange for the U.S.'s promise to back off its aggressive stance toward Nicolás Maduro. Nothing came of that negotiation, but it went on for quite a few months, even as the U.S. called that country a narco-terror cartel. Now, while that negotiation ended with no deal, the fact that President Trump has made significant reversals on other foreign policy issues, like, for example, tariffs on China, gives experts some confidence that he might switch from aggressor to negotiator on Venezuela as well.
Okay. And then meanwhile, Tim, the Trump administration is expanding the number of countries that are covered by a travel ban following the shooting of 2 National Guard members in Washington, D.C. last week. The Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, says that the list is going to go from 19 nations up to 32. What's the goal there? And as always, we have to ask, is it legal?
Yeah, you know, Noem has talked a lot about that this is a national security issue, and with many of these countries, they believe they have unstable governments, and so they're not able to properly vet people that want to come into this country, and so if they can't do that, they don't believe anybody should come in from these countries. As far as legality of that particular, there is a Supreme Court ruling that seems to give a precedent for that to be allowed. Now, there's 2 other reasons here, overstaying of visas, as well as these countries, some of them not accepting people that were deported. There's less certainty there about the legality of that. Of course, the question is, if these things get into courts, you know, from a congressional perspective, who's going to stop Donald Trump? And of course, as this winds itself through, if it did through the court system, whether any courts would stop him as well. So there's different reasoning there. It depends, but national security is really the main reason that they're using this, saying these countries can just not vet the people well enough to allow them into the country.
Okay. And then, Susan, in our last minute, Another big deal this week was the administration sending federal agents with the goal of arresting 5,000 immigrants accused of violent crimes. From what we've seen in many locations, there's been a fair amount of broad profiling rather than targeted investigations, as well as a lot of pushback, especially because some U.S. citizens are getting swept up and treated pretty roughly. How long is this likely to continue?
Yeah, the promise during the election, Errol, was to arrest the worst of the worst, but the administration has come face to face with a few hard facts that arresting true criminals requires traditional policing, not the SWAT team tactics of ICE, and that there just aren't as many immigrants guilty of crimes as they had originally thought.
Okay, thank you very much, Susan. Thank you, Tim. We're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll keep our focus on the administration's immigration crackdown and bring you an exclusive look behind the scenes at ICE operations. That's next on The Big Deal.
Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Spectrum TV, isn't that only live TV?
No, it's only all my favorite streaming apps with live TV.
Okay.
It's only all included at no extra cost, and that's the magic of math. Will this be on the test? Sure, why not?
It's only one simple payment for all our TV. We gotta simplify and win. Winning is equally important.
If not, more so.
Yeah!
Only Spectrum TV, fixed TV.
Being a cowboy, well, I don't know anything different. I had a very successful career. Life was fast. I was preparing physically. I wasn't doing anything mentally. And then I got hurt. I dug into mental health. I wanted to be better as a person. I start my day with a workout. I live life 8 seconds at a time. Find a place to stop and just breathe. Love your mind.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Back with The Big Deal. Immigration enforcement has taken on new urgency in Southern California, with federal agents making more arrests and pushing deeper into neighborhoods than we have seen in years. Spectrum News got exclusive access to observe an early morning operation in Los Angeles, offering a rare look behind the scenes and a look at how U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement conducts its work and why the issue remains so contentious.
My target closes the gate
before most of Los Angeles has woken up.
And then he comes to the passenger side.
Officers from the ICE Sex Crimes Unit are plotting an undercover operation.
One's going to come through the back, one's going to come to the front. I think we're going to take them down here
to detain and possibly remove individuals that they have confirmed to be living in the U.S. without legal status.
So the officers will typically do between 8 and 10 hours, man hours, of just the surveillance, the case prep, the investigative work.
This assistant field director is giving us a rare look at how this unit operates. We've agreed to not show his face or use his name, as ICE officials say they are concerned about officers' safety.
Be aware of your surroundings.
Tensions between bystanders and officers have often run high.
Get your fat
in your car?
The Department of Homeland Security citing a 1,000% increase in assaults on ICE officers. And just last September, a Dallas ICE office came under sniper fire.
The climate that we're in right now, unfortunately, has made it very difficult for us to do our job. And it is scary for the officers and their families as well.
He has been with ICE since the agency's creation in 2003, an immigrant himself from El Salvador who served in the U.S. military. He says over 2 decades his job has been impacted by California's embrace of sanctuary policies, notably the California Values Act, which limits local police from working with federal immigration officials.
There was a time where law enforcement did cooperate. We had a team within that cooperated with our local law enforcement in the jails that would routinely vet these cases to establish if that person's here in the country illegally or not, and then turn them over to ICE.
But without that cooperation, ICE says more resources are needed to make arrests, including today's target, a 22-year-old national of Guatemala, convicted by a California court for lewd acts with a child under 14 years old last year, but released on 5 years probation.
In a perfect world, we would have this sex offender turned over that's in the country illegally, turned over to immigration.
As dawn breaks, the officers wait for him to leave for work.
Copy, that's a solid copy.
When the radio signals it's time to move in earlier than expected, and several unmarked vehicles rush down a normally quiet South LA street. A young man steps out of the intercepted car, but it is not who officers were looking for. He is detained for being in the country illegally, and officers quickly get back in place.
We'll take that one.
Okay.
It's a fast reset for the unit that minutes later stops this vehicle.
He's in the back. He's in the back.
What up? Get your hands up.
The driver cooperates with officers while the passenger becomes agitated.
This right, got it.
The man ICE is looking for is sitting in the back seat. Officers quickly put him into handcuffs.
Okay.
In a mix of Spanish and English, he is shown an arrest order and confirms his identity. Meanwhile, the driver admits he's in the country illegally and becomes another collateral arrest. The whole operation taking just 5 minutes before officers are back on the move. The streets of Los Angeles became one of the first flashpoints for immigration enforcement under the Trump administration, with several operations by ICE and other immigration agencies making national headlines. The Department of Homeland Security has set its eyes on making 3,000 arrests nationwide a day, dedicating more resources, including an unprecedented $170 billion budget increase over 4 years. But a new UCLA poll suggests that the president's supporters in California are divided over certain policies, with younger voters disagreeing that individuals who've lived in the U.S. for a long time should be deported. That's unlikely to change the White House's hardline view, and this ICE field officer says arrests will continue.
The tempo, the cadence that we're in is not going to change. The priorities will not change.
Back at the ICE offices, the morning ends with a perp walk to processing. Inside, phone numbers to local consulates greet the nearly 40 people who are brought in daily. For detainees who plan to fight their case, the wait to see an immigration judge averages 1 month. But those agreeing to return to their native country could be on a flight within days, leaving behind the city that has become a front line in America's immigration debate.
Spectrum News reporter Ryan Thompson joins me now from Los Angeles to talk about his exclusive ride-along. And Ryan, great reporting. What does the data tell us about who ICE is targeting in Los Angeles?
Well, Errol, it's a mix of people with criminal records, like you saw just there, but also people who are picked up as part of these collateral arrests. The most recent data set we have from the time they ramped up enforcement in June to mid-October suggests that, yes, 2,800 people with criminal records have been arrested by the Los Angeles office, but there are also 3,600 people over that amount who do not have a criminal record. And, you know, part of this is coming from people that are collateral arrests, but also those worksite enforcement operations. Here in Los Angeles, car washes have been a major flashpoint for that. We've seen them hit countless times. Data suggests over 100 times since June. And so that is where a lot of these people who don't have criminal records, who are showing up to work every single day, are being taken in by immigration officials.
I found it interesting, Ryan, that when the officer told you that he's afraid of being identified for doing his job, amid all the tension and the protests against ICE operations. Meanwhile, there have been increased efforts around the country to get ICE agents to stop using masks when they're making arrests. What is the latest on that question in California?
Yeah, there are two notable legislative efforts happening out west here in Los Angeles. First of all, there is a statewide bill that was signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom that is called the No Secret Police Act. It really restricts and bans both federal and local law enforcement, including ICE, from wearing those ski masks we saw in the piece, but really anything that obscures their face. There's also a separate effort being done by the Los Angeles County supervisors, and that made some headway this week. But regardless, both of these efforts are going to face major legal challenges, with the Department of Homeland Security threatening that they will battle these out in court. The statewide bill set to take effect, Errol, in January, but it's likely going to be pushed back because of impending legal challenges. Not to mention, it's going to be something that's very, very difficult for anyone to enforce.
And then in our last minute, Ryan, even with the targeting, it looked like those agents you were traveling with got two bystanders who may be subject now to deportation, in addition to the person they were actually looking for, who seemed like a fairly dangerous character. Do they have an incentive to do that? Were they happy about getting three when they were really just looking for one person?
Yeah, going into it, they expected that to be the outcome, that people would be picked up that they didn't intend to actually get that day. They see their mission as arresting anyone who is in the country illegally, anyone that they come across, even if it's outside the scope of someone who has a criminal record. They see being in the country illegally as a criminal offense, and that is why they are arresting them. They didn't acknowledge, even though we've heard it time and time again from the administration in Washington, that there is this emphasis to try and ramp up arrests to near 3,000 per day nationwide across the United States. And now I think what we're seeing is that pressure trickling down to the field officers here in Southern California who are trying to pick up anyone that is potentially an immigration law violator to try and bring that number to the high point where the administration wants it.
Okay. Thanks very much, Ryan. Great reporting. We're not done just yet. Coming up, healthcare costs for millions of Americans are set to skyrocket a few weeks from now, unless Congress steps in. We'll explain next. Stay with us.
The stories that touch our border affect us all. That's why at Spectrum News Plus, we don't just cover these communities. Our dedicated reporting team also calls them home. That perspective allows us to take an in-depth look, going beyond the politics, to see the impact on people's lives and what it means for you and your community. Balanced border coverage that tells the full story here on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
It's only a hike. It's only made possible by Spectrum Business connecting healthcare providers of all sizes. Like hospitals relying on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network with industry-leading reliability. Practices keeping patient data safe with advanced security. Pharmacies accessing records in the cloud without fail. It's tailored connectivity solutions built for life-changing moments. It's only a hike. It's only everything. Spectrum Business.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us Saturday nights at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central for Onstage.
Onstage is presented by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Discover which Cadillac is right for you and elevate your journey.
Mom Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
Thanks for staying with The Big Deal. We are quickly approaching the expiration of federal subsidies that millions of Americans rely on to pay for insurance coverage under the Affordable Care Act. There are only 8 legislative days left in the year for Congress to pass an extension. Now, last month, Senator John Thune, who leads the Republican majority in the Senate, promised a floor vote as part of an agreement struck with Democrats to end the government shutdown. Under that deal, the vote is supposed to take place next week. And among the Democrats, Senator Chuck Schumer is unveiling now a proposal to extend Affordable Care Act subsidies for 3 years. If lawmakers are unable to reach an agreement next week, more than 24 million people will see higher health insurance premiums starting next year. Joining me now with more on all of this is Spectrum News political reporter Charlotte Scott, based in Washington, D.C. And Charlotte, what types of people are on health care under the Affordable Care Act, and what will their options be if they can't afford the increased premiums?
Yeah, Errol, as you mentioned, there are more than 24 million people on the Affordable Care Act, and a majority of them receive those premium tax credits that are set to expire at the end of the year. And a majority live in states that Trump won last year. These could be small business owners, farmers, self-employed people, or unemployed people under the age of 65. And one thing to note from the health policy organization KFF is that states that Trump won in 2024 have received more ACA premium tax credits and have had more enrollment growth. So what are their options if they can no longer afford it? Estimates show that 1.5 million to 4 million people could go uninsured, which is obviously not what people want. Or they could go on a job search and try to find a company that has employer-sponsored health care. Errol.
More than 60 votes are needed in order to pass legislation in the Senate and extend the subsidies. I think this is the kind of situation where everybody's counting votes. What are you hearing about what we're likely to see next week?
Yeah, everyone is counting votes, and Democrats already know that they're not going to get the votes to pass this clean 3-year extension of the ACA subsidies. So this is really a Democratic messaging vote because it's a non-starter for the GOP to vote for this bill. Republicans really want to limit eligibility and put in other guardrails in place for these ACA premiums, and their 3-year proposal doesn't do that. So for Democrats, this is getting Republicans on the record, showing their constituents and pointing to them and saying, look, Republicans didn't vote to lower your health care costs. So Democrats are viewing it as a win. But next week, we could also see a proposal by House GOP members maybe on Monday or Tuesday to unveil their plan, but it's really unclear at this point what that even looks like, and the vote next week is unlikely to go anywhere in the Senate.
So, I mean, real bottom line is that a lot of people, including a lot of our viewers, are going to see those premiums go up in the next few weeks.
Yeah, exactly. And the president hasn't really weighed in here. You know, the president has said that he wants to see HSAs, or health savings accounts, using the money that could go to ACA premiums and putting them into accounts for Americans to use for their out-of-pocket costs. Democrats don't think that that's a good idea. Republicans, the ones that I've talked to, are getting behind this presidential proposal, but really there's no proposal. It's just what the president's talking about. So, you know, Americans are sort of in this limbo period, waiting to see what Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill are going to do to try to help them as they're looking at skyrocketing premiums, and they're not really getting anywhere right now, Errol.
Okay, we will continue to watch. Thank you very much, Charlotte Scott. And we thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next week. Stay tuned to your local station.
Friday nights, The Big Deal with Errol Lewis, where Spectrum News' local political journalists break down the most important issues shaping our nation.
Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
It's only a slice. It's only made possible by Spectrum, connecting businesses of all sizes, like small businesses, instantly serving up orders and inventory on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network, and factories, seamlessly connecting to farmers in the field with tailored solutions that always deliver. It's only a slice. It's only everything. Get your business free fiber-powered internet forever. Call to find out how.
Weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At Spectrum News Plus, our weather experts update you with the information and the context you need so you can better plan your day. And we do it every 10 minutes. We're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on Spectrum News Plus, exclusively on Spectrum. And get your weather anytime on the Spectrum News app. Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app